Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today we are focusing on Quantum Sci, the life sciences technology company that has been generating quite a bit of buzz lately. We've synthesized everything from their recent Q2 financials, technical trading signals, and importantly, their upcoming product launches. We're trying to tackle the big question for investors right now: is Quantum Sci actually a good time to buy? And hey, if you find this discussion helpful, please do subscribe, like, and maybe drop a comment below. Also, if there's a specific company you want us to look into next time, definitely let us know in the comments.
Yeah, and there's a lot to break down here because the information is pretty conflicting. You've got this really rapid technological adoption on one hand, but then these persistent, pretty significant operational losses on the other. And the analyst sentiment, it's all over the place. So our goal today is really to give you a clear, actionable picture of the opportunities, but also, crucially, the very real risks surrounding Quantum Sci right now.
Okay, let's unpack this then. It feels like we're dealing with a biotech innovator that's maybe right at an inflection point.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. At its core, Quantum Sci operates squarely in what's called next-generation protein sequencing, or NGPS. Their whole business is really anchored by this proprietary single-molecule platform. The main instrument is the Platinum Pro. And this isn't just, a small step forward. This tech uniquely enables protein sequencing right down to the amino acid level.
Okay, so why does amino acid level matter so much? I mean, we've all heard about DNA sequencing for years. What makes protein sequencing so much harder, and what kind of barrier does that create?
That's really the key difference. Sequencing DNA, while complex, is one thing. But sequencing proteins, which are basically the workhorses of the cell at that single molecule level, that's a fundamentally different and much tougher technical challenge. Proteins are just far more structurally complex than DNA, for one thing. Plus, they're constantly undergoing modifications after they're made. So Quantum Sci has patent-protected intellectual property, their IP, covering the methods and the chemistry needed to accurately decode these complex structures. That gives them a massive early mover advantage. It's a deep technical moat, really.
A moat, okay.
Yeah, and it creates significant barriers for any competitors trying to jump into this highly specialized NGPS market. And you can see their focus is clearly on growth and R&D.
Yeah.
I mean, structurally, that's why they don't pay any dividends. All the cash goes back into the science and expansion.
And it seems like the market is starting to validate that technology, right? Because here's where it gets really interesting. The revenue surge, it's been massive. Even if the starting point was small, full year 2024 revenue hit $3.06 million, or a single number. But that's up 182.6% year over year from 2023. I mean, that's undeniably hyper-growth territory.
It absolutely is. And that kind of growth, it signals strong demand. It shows genuine excitement from research institutions, early adopters. They're not just sitting back either. That growth helps validate their innovation pipeline, which is pretty aggressive.
We're looking at some key upcoming launches, like the Proteus V4 sequencing kit. That's scheduled for late November 2025.
Okay.
And then there's the V3 library preparation kit coming in Q4 2025. These kits, the consumables, that's really how they monetize the platform long term. So their success is tied directly to improving speed, accuracy, usability with these new versions.
Right, so they've got the tech validation, they've got the steep revenue trajectory starting. But let's shift gears a bit from the lab bench maybe to the balance sheet, because that kind of hyper-growth story almost always comes with a financial consequence, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And this is where the investment picture gets, complicated. First, the good news. Their financial stability got a pretty major boost recently. They successfully completed a $50 million direct capital raise back in September 2025.
Okay, hang on. A $50 million raise. But you mentioned earlier, wasn't the loss something like must only $3 million in revenue? That cash burn sounds astronomical. I mean, yeah, $50 million gives them runway. Yeah. But doesn't it also kind of signal a lack of confidence that sales could cover the burn rate? Like they had to dilute shareholders just to keep the lights on? Is this still mainly an R&D shop playing at being a commercial company?
Look, that's the tough question investors absolutely have to grapple with. That $50 million raise, it was critical because, yes, the cash burn is incredibly high. When we look at the trailing 12 months, the TTM, net loss, so the loss over the last full year, it stands at negative $106.46 million. Wow. And Q2 2025 alone, a net loss of $28.8 million. So that $50 million, it was, you could say, defensive. It pushes their projected liquidity out until at least Q2 2028 based on current projections. So This move did effectively calm those immediate worries about solvency, about them running out of cash, which is, vital for any high-burn development stage company. The cash is there now to fund the R&D push and that critical commercialization effort needed to try and cross that profitability chasm.
Okay, so liquidity risk is reduced, temporarily anyway, which is good.
Yeah.
But that resilience is basically bought with heavy dilution and this ongoing expectation of losses. So what's the path forward here? I mean, they need to stop the bleeding dramatically.
Precisely. It really means success hinges entirely on execution now. They have to prove the commercialization can accelerate and fast. They need higher than expected sales growth, basically, to shift the market narrative and reduce that perceived execution risk around adopting the platform. If they can't successfully launch this V4 kit and quickly scale up installations and usage, well, that 2028 runway starts looking a lot shorter very quickly.
Okay, let's talk about that market narrative, that market tone. The stock price itself, it's around $2.20 as of, late October 2025. It's been incredibly volatile. We saw that 30% jump on some speculation, but then it was followed pretty quickly by an 8–10% slide. That kind of whiplash is just exhausting for investors.
It really is. And that recent decline, it was partly influenced by some pretty significant institutional moves, which you always have to watch.
Yeah.
We saw some insider selling, notably by Director Rothberg and other insider Bennett. That signals people closest to the operation were maybe taking some profits or reducing their exposure after the run-up.
Yeah, not usually a great sign.
No. And compounding that, ARK Investment Management, which is a huge holder in the biotech space, actually reduced its ownership stake. When big institutions move like that, especially after a price jump, it just creates massive selling pressure.
So when you look at that volatility, it kind of makes sense given there's no real consensus. What does this all mean for the analyst ratings? Are they focusing more on the cash burn or the potential of the tech?
They are completely polarized. It's quite something. You've got 3 analysts rating it a strong buy with a mean price target around $2.38. But then the overall market sentiment, which averages in all the ratings, including those from more skeptical firms, that averages out to just a hold. But weirdly, with a significantly higher average target price of $3.48.
Wait, why is there such a big difference? And why would the strong buy target actually be lower than the average hold target? That feels backwards.
Yeah, it does seem counterintuitive, but it really highlights those differing viewpoints on valuation versus execution risk. The analysts putting out those lower strong buy targets, they're likely basing their valuation mostly on current peer comparisons and the immediate near-term revenue potential. They're bullish on the next, say, 12 months.
Got it.
That higher $3.48 hold target, though, that suggests other analysts see the massive long-term potential of the technology, if they succeed. But they're holding back from a full buy rating because of that high operational execution risk and the current dilution concerns from needing more cash.
Okay, that helps clarify that conflicting signal a bit. What about the charts? Technicals often tell a story about momentum, sometimes regardless of the fundamentals. The stock is currently trading above both its 50-day simple moving average, the SMA, which is around $1.47, and the 200-day SMA at $1.62.
That's right. And that is a significant positive technical signal. It suggests the recent price action is stronger than both the medium-term and longer-term trends. Also, momentum metrics like the MCD, that's the moving average convergence to divergence indicator, they're positive right now and indicating strengthening upward momentum.
Okay.
So for a non-technical trader, that basically means the short-term price trend is pulling away from the longer-term trend in a positive direction. We are seeing a definite technical uptrend trying to form here.
But we mentioned the extreme volatility earlier.
We did, and the numbers confirm it. A high volatility reading of 24.3% just underscores that this is not a stock for the faint of heart. And adding to that, the stock carries a really high beta of 2.91. Yeah. So for you, the investor, that means this stock is expected to be almost 3 times more sensitive to broader market movements than, say, the S&P 500.
So if the market hiccups.
If the market dips even slightly, Quantum Sci is likely to see a much, much sharper decline. It really is a high-risk, potentially high-reward kind of play. On a more neutral note, the RSI, the Relative Strength Index, it's currently sitting around 47.25. Pretty neutral, suggesting it's neither extremely overbought nor oversold based purely on the recent price action.
All right, so looking ahead, QSI's near-term path seems defined by this stack of key events all coming up in the next, 90 days or so? For anyone thinking about buying now, these dates seem absolutely critical.
They really are. The company absolutely needs catalysts to prove they're executing, to prove they can accelerate revenue and platform adoption.
Okay, first up is the Q3 2025 earnings release that's scheduled for November 5, 2025. a strong beat here, especially maybe on instrument placements or how much consumables are being used, or even just strong updated guidance on managing that burn rate that could instantly reactivate the bullish trend we saw.
Exactly. And that earnings report is followed almost immediately by a really crucial product launch in late November. That's when we expect the official launch of the V4 sequencing kit for their Proteus platform. Remember, this kit, it represents that R&D effort translating directly into potential revenue. It demonstrates the pipeline is working.
Right.
The market really needs to see that this new version offers concrete advantages, maybe higher speed, broader applications, something to ensure researchers adopt it quickly.
Investors should also probably keep an eye on December 1st, 2025. That's when the institutional 13F filings are due. That'll show where the big money, the major firms, move their money after that run-up and the recent insider selling. It gives you a sense of conviction.
Good point. And then there's December 15, 2025, which is the ETF rebalancing window. Depending on index rules, that could potentially provide some automatic buying pressure if the stock gets included or its weighting increases in certain biotech or tech ETFs.
And you mentioned speculative catalysts earlier.
Yeah, what's fascinating here, and adds another layer of, well, speculation, is the persistent market chatter around things that could happen. These aren't confirmed, but they're definitely influencing sentiment. We keep hearing talk about potential strategic partnerships, maybe with major pharma companies that would obviously provide huge validation and open up distribution channels.
Makes sense.
There's also sort of ongoing background noise about potential acquisition interest from larger life sciences conglomerates that might just want to own this NGPS technology outright rather than compete.
And what about non-dilutive funding? Any rumors there?
Yes, exactly. There are these recurring rumors about a major NIH grant award. If that happened, it could potentially solve some of the capital sales headwinds they face, maybe by subsidizing initial placements in research universities, getting the instruments out there without burning more cash quite so fast.
Yeah.
These kinds of speculative events are highly unpredictable, of course, but they do represent significant potential upside if any of them were to actually materialize.
Okay, let's bring it all back together then, focusing on the risks again, just to be clear. To summarize, the primary risks really remain that very high cash burn, that $106.46 million TTM loss is stark, and the significant execution risk around commercialization. Can they actually sell this thing at scale?
And don't forget that high beta, 2.91. You are absolutely signing up for intense volatility with this stock. But weighing everything, the high growth potential, the recent $50 million raise that eased immediate solvency worries, the positive technical momentum we're seeing, and these imminent product launches, the overall investment thesis, drawing from the sources we looked at, it does lean bullish, albeit, and this is critical, with a high-risk rating attached, maybe an 8 out of 10 on the conviction scale, but acknowledging the risk.
And that bullish view, it fundamentally relies on believing in the disruptive nature of their technology, right? And also believing that the broader market for proteomics itself will continue its structural growth, positioning Quantum-Si for potentially outsized durable growth if, and it's a big if, they can execute on that commercialization plan over the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's the core bet. And the sources seem to suggest this stock could be attractive for two very different types of investors right now. On one hand, maybe for short-term trading. Trying to leverage that November 5th earnings catalyst and maybe a positive reaction to the V4 kit launch, especially given the positive technical signals.
Okay.
But it could also be viewed as a compelling, though risky, long-term investment, really betting on them becoming a leader in the NGPS sector and maybe even capturing some M&A potential down the road. But that's only if you have the stomach for that high beta and the potential for big swings.
So if we try and connect this to the really big picture, maybe the question isn't just about Quantum-Si's stock price today or tomorrow. It's more about the speed at which proteomics, the study of proteins, is potentially displacing genomics, the study of genes, as a critical focus in personalized medicine and diagnostics. How quickly will that huge structural shift actually happen globally? And how secure is Quantum-Si's technological lead in that race? That's it. That feels like the core variable you really need to track and evaluate constantly if you're looking at this company.
Definitely something to mull over as you do your own research. Thanks for joining us for this analysis. We look forward to seeing you for our next Investing Talk podcast.